Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 10-game MLB DFS slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. If you tuned in yesterday, hopefully you played some Anthony Rendon, my home run call of the day, going deep again. So looking to keep that on a roll. If you are new to the channel and you enjoyed this content, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, that would be greatly appreciated. And to anyone that's been watching my content that hasn't hit that subscribe button yet, if you are enjoying the content, if you could take 1 second to do that, it's free. It takes 2 seconds. It does greatly help me out. I appreciate it. And then if you decide to change your mind and unsubscribe later, you know, it's still an option. So, but with that being said, if you do play MLB every single day, I do offer an MLB DFS package, link below in the description on Patreon with some premium content. So check that out. You get access to all of my cheat sheets, power rankings, data sheets, etc. And then make sure you stay tuned to the end of the video for my home run call of the day. And with that being said, going to go ahead and start breaking this one down today. As always, we're going to go ahead and figure out the pitchers that we're going to be playing, and then we'll transition over to bats. So I like to go ahead and short my sheet by K-rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts, and the top guy on the slate today in K-rate, not exactly a loaded slate with a bunch of flamethrowers, but we got Daniel Ponce de Leon at the top of the list here, taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Comes in with a 27.2% K rate, 11.9 swinging strike rate. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's not the greatest. He has a 23.5% K rate against righties, and then against lefties, it goes all the way up to a 31.9% K rate. And I think this is a great opportunity for him to really shine because he has to take on this Milwaukee Brewers team who has a lot of strikeouts in their lineup, and they are very left-handed heavy. Looking up and down their lineup, Jackie Bradley Jr., Christian Yelich, Travis Shaw, Omar Narvaez, Jace Peterson. As far as the right-hand side of the plate, you have 3 bats in Garcia, Keston here, and Luis Urias. So top K guy on the slate. And like I said, better against lefties. And then he gets to take on quite a bit of lefties. And even though there's a guy like, a Christian Yelich in there who's an elite bat, he gets his fair strikeouts. And then you got guys like Travis Shaw, Omar Narvaez, plenty of strikeouts in their bats. And I'm not too scared about Jace Peterson either. So I think this is a good opportunity for him. He comes in at a 6.2 price tag on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they got him priced at 6.7. So not only is the top K guy on the slate, but he's not really priced like it. So you could make an argument that, there's a tremendous play all around. Based upon price tag and stuff, no issues with you going there. Second guy on the slate, we got Adrian Moran taking on these Texas Rangers, who continue to strike out a bunch as well. 26.1% K rate, 28.2% K rate against right-handed hitting, with a little bit of a hard contact issue, but then a 22.6% K rate against lefties. So next guy you could be looking to on the slate is Adrian Moran. Now, based upon how these guys are priced, they're not even close to the top option on the slate. You got Jordan Montgomery priced all the way up, but when it comes to K rate, Moran's the second guy you're looking to. 7.7 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, they've got him priced at 5.9, and he is a pretty hefty favorite in this one. A 176 favorite taking on these Texas Rangers. And as mentioned, these Rangers do strike out quite a bit, so definitely an interesting option. Second on the list. And then third on the list, Jordan Montgomery, the guy that is the top price guy on the slate, and for good reason. I mean, we're looking at stuff across the board. He has 25.2% K rate, 13.3 swinging strike rate. The ground ball and the fly ball stuff's really good. The walker stuff's good. The hard hit rate stuff's good. All across the board, a 25.9% K rate against righties, and then a 23.4% K rate against lefties. But more specifically, as mentioned, it's really the ground ball, the fly ball, the slugging, and all that stuff. When looking at the other pitchers on the slate, Jordan Montgomery really stands out. And he gets to take on a Tampa Bay Rays team who does have their fair share of strikeouts, even though they're not the best matchup in the world. They do strike out. So I do think that Jordan Montgomery is definitely a viable option. You could argue the best option on the slate. I mean, he's priced up like he is, and for good reason. It's just a matter of if you can fit him in with the bats that you really like on either site that you're playing on today. But definitely have no issues with you going there. And then this is where we kind of group together, like in this next range, a bunch of guys that we can really be looking to based upon matchup and everything. We have Mike Minor, Matt Schumacher, Nick Pivetta, Dylan Cease, and those are the guys I'm really trying to look to in this one. You got Marcus Stroman taking on the Marlins. I could have some interest in him. And then that's when things kind of dip off from there on. You got Logan Allen taking on Detroit, who's just strikes out a bunch, so you can make an argument for him. But overall, just want to cover this quick range before we transition over to bats. Mike Minor taking on the Chicago White Sox. He is a lefty. They do crush left-handed pitching, but they do have a fair share of strikeouts. He comes in with a 23.8% K rate overall, 24.4% K rate against right-handed hitting, and then a 21.8% K rate against lefties. And I do think that there is some strikeout upside to be had in this matchup taking on the Chicago White Sox. So he's another guy in the mid-range. I have no issues with you going to at all. Right now, looking at the Vegas lines, the Chicago White Sox do have a 4.87 implied run total, so that's a little scary. But if he's able to get to this lineup, the strikeouts will be there. And the same rule is going to apply to his opponent in Dylan Cease. Looking at his strikeouts, his 21.2% K rate overall. Against righties, it's a 25.9% K rate. And then against lefties, it dips down all the way to a 17.1. So very splits heavy, but very good against right-handed hitting. And when looking at the Kansas City Royals lineup overall, there are quite a few righties. And the lefties aren't too scary. You got Andrew Benintendi, Carlos Santana, Kyle Isbell, and Nicky Lopez, who hit from the left side of the plate. And then you got Merrifield, Salvador Perez, Jorge Soler, Hunter Dozier, Michael Taylor from the right-hand side of the plate. I do think there's enough strikeouts to go around that he could be an intriguing option. On FanDuel, they got him priced at 6.3, which is a pretty respectable price tag. Over here on DraftKings, he's up at 7.2. So I could be looking at him for sure. I had mentioned Logan Allen. He's priced at 8.6 on DraftKings. I think that's mostly because of the matchup with the Detroit Tigers. He's all the way down here at a 13.7% K rate, but the ground ball to fly ball stuff's really good against righties. Doesn't really strike anyone out. Ground ball, fly ball stuff really good, and lefties, same thing. So you can make an argument for him as mentioned. Matt Schumacher taking on the Seattle Mariners. He has a 22.4% K rate, 12.7 swinging strike rate, 22.2 K rate against righties, and then against lefties is 24.6% K rate. So he actually does strike out lefties quite a bit, and overall he just gets a great matchup taking on the Seattle team that's striking out a ton right now. In Minnesota, he is a 2-0-1 favorite. He's priced at 7.8 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they got him priced at 6.9. It's a pretty nice price tag on him as well. Ponce de Leon and Schumacher are probably my favorite as far as price tag is concerned, and getting a bargain over there. And he's definitely a viable option on this slate today. And then lastly, last guy I'll mention before we get into the bats is Nick Pivetta taking on the Baltimore Orioles. A 21.5% K rate overall, 23% K rate against righties, and then a 19.8% K rate against lefties. Not so good against lefties as much as righties, but overall decent K rate. And it's more about the Baltimore Orioles who've been striking out a ton to start the season. Looking at the latest Vegas lines, they have a 4.42 implied run total against Pivetta. He's priced at 7.4 on FanDuel, and then over on DraftKings, Pivetta is priced at 7.6. So, yeah, those are the guys I'd really be looking to. You got Stroman against the Mets and Cobb against Toronto on DraftKings, who are priced up a decent amount and are fairly good options. But other than that, not really looking to anyone too much. And with that being said, let's go ahead and transition over to bats. My favorite bats to target on the day. As always, you'd like to go ahead and sort my sheet by skill interactive ERA, figure out the worst guys on the slate, and then figure out who we're really looking, to target. And the worst guy on the slate by far is going to be Chris Flexen taking on these Minnesota Twins. The Seattle pitching staff is less than impressive. And Flexen joins the group. And then we're looking at the weather right now. We got 11-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to right center in Minnesota. So I'm definitely going to have some interest in some Minnesota bats. Looking at Flexen's splits overall. Against righties, terrible across the board. Against lefties, he's been a little bit better in the slugging, the hard contact, and the WOBA, ironically. Just keep in mind, we are only dealing with an 18 innings pitch sample size, though, in this. So just take with it what you will. But overall, it's still a great matchup because the Twins come in with a 4.99 implied run total. Going to have a lot of interest in the middle of the order. Jorge Polanco, Nelson Cruz, Max Kepler, Byron Buxton. Jake Cave in the 6th spot has a lot of pop as well. Miguel Sano. All the above. So really Miguel Sano through like Nelson Cruz, Jorge Polanco. That power range, going to have some interest in those guys. Paul Campbell, second on the slate, taking on the New York Mets. We only have a 2 innings pitch sample size. He looked terrible across the board. He's better against lefties, but it doesn't really matter because we're dealing with a 2 innings pitch sample size. So overall, we're just going to lean on Vegas on this one. There is no lines released, and the weather's looking really scary there. Just keep an eye on those lines, but I tend to think that the Mets will have a pretty hefty line in this one. So I have no issues stacking them up. I'll start to the 1 through 4, Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Michael Conforto, Pete Alonso, Dom Smith, and then VR, McNeil, McCann at the bottom of the order you could go to as well, but really primarily stacking up through Dom Smith. That's where the power bats are at, and you could be looking there. Logan Allen taking on Detroit. as mentioned, you could be playing some Logan Allen against Detroit, but also he does give up quite a bit of slugging. If you want to stack up these Tigers, they only have a 3.81 implied run total, but look to the power guys, top of the order. Goodrum, Willie Castro, Miguel Cabrera, Jaime Candelario. Personally, I'm not all too interested in that stack. The numbers add up, but I'm not really looking to go there. Then you got Dylan Cease against the Royals. I had mentioned maybe playing him as a pitching option. They do have a 4.13 implied run total due to the Royals, and I kind of like Cease as a pitcher overall. But when he does struggle in the hard contact category, and he does give up quite a bit of hard contact to lefties. As mentioned, a 527 slugging, a 381 WOBA. Not going to get the job done. So I have no issues be playing some Royal stacks, and specifically my favorite would be Carlos Santana in the 3 spot at 2.9 in this particular situation. And his opponent on the other side, Jose Urena, or sorry, not his opponent. But who I was just talking about, the Tigers taking on the Cleveland Indians, and the Cleveland Indians in a 5.19 implied run total situation with a guy in Jose Urena who's just not good past his prime. Looking at his numbers across the board, he's pretty respectable against righties for the most part for being bad, but against lefties he has a major issue. A 581 slugging, 42.2% hard hit rate, 403 WOBA, really, really bad against left-handed hitting. And that's going to make me really like these lefties on the Cleveland side of things. You got Ben Gamel, Cesar Hernandez, Jose Ramirez, Eddie Rosario, Josh Naylor, Jacob Bowers, and Jimenez at the bottom of the order. My favorite options would be right in the middle of this order, the guys with a lot of power. So Jose Ramirez, Eddie Rosario, Josh Naylor, Jacob Bowers, those 4 guys, really going to like them today. Of course, Cesar Hernandez and Ben Gamel at the top of the lineup, no issues, and you can throw in a Jimenez as well. A lot more interested in these lefties and the righties, so definitely be stacking up those lefties. And then from there on, this is when things start to get a little bit more respectable, breaking down the rest of the pitchers. So we're going to start looking at our splits as we always do, looking at guys we can target against, right-handed bats. Brett Anderson does give up a decent amount of hard contact against right-handed bats, and he is a left-handed pitcher himself. Nothing crazy, not the worst pitcher in the slate, but you could be throwing some St. Louis Cardinals in your lineup, specifically Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado in that 2 and 3 spot, both really good against left-handed pitching. And with them being back-to-back, they're going to have to face one of them. So I really like that combo against left-handed pitching. And both those guys at the 2-man stack make a lot of sense to me today. And then as far as anyone else, we got Michael Wacha taking on the New York Yankees. He's going to be the long reliever. There's expected to be an opener in this one. And then they're going to hand the ball over to Michael Wacha, and he does have some slugging issues against right-handed hitting. Specifically, he gives up a 567 slugging against righties, and that is second worst on the slate. 41.7% hard hit rate and a 388 WOBA. So these Yankees right-handed power bats you could be looking to for sure on the slate today. Let's see, specifically who I'd be looking to, DJ LeMahieu at the top of the order, Aaron Judge, of course, Giancarlo Stanton, Gleyber Torres, Gary Sanchez, Gio Urshela, and Clint Frazier at the bottom of the order, no issues. But my favorite would be DJ LeMahieu and Aaron Judge at the top of the order. I do tend to lean Judge against right-handed pitching and then Giancarlo Stanton against left-handed pitching. So whenever I'm having to pick one of them to put in my lineups, that's how I would do it there. And of course, you can play both, but if I'm picking one, I'm picking Judge in this matchup. And then Gleyber Torres, Gary Sanchez, Gio Urshela, Clint Frazier, you can route out your stacks with. And then, let's see, anyone else? I mean, there's plenty of options to go around here as far as who we're looking to target. The next guy that has a really big slugging issue, the next 2 against right-handed hitting at least, that I'd be really focusing in on would be one, Alex Cobb taking on these Toronto Blue Jays. Does have an issue slugging against right-handed hitting. Specifically, he is reverse splitsy. He gives up a 553 slugging to righties, a 45.2% hard hit rate to righties. Really bad, but the ground ball and the fly ball stuff is not the worst in the world, so that's where there's a little bit of a debate here to be had on whether you're stacking up the Blue Jays or not. But overall, you are looking at these righties: Marcus Semien, Bo Bichette, Vladdy Jr., Randall Grichuk, Jonathan Davis, Danny Jansen. Really wanted to lock in on those guys. And lastly, we got Moron taking on these Texas Rangers, who is a left-handed pitcher who gives up a 597 slugging, a 45.3% hard hit rate, and a 403 WOBA. Unfortunately, the Rangers don't have a lot of guys that rake off lefties that we can capitalize on playing against this guy. But A few guys that we can play. Isaiah Kinner Fafella at the top of the order. Really going to like him. Nick Solak in the middle of the order. Jose Trevino. Eli White. Leodis Tavares and Charlie Culberson. You could be playing. My favorite would be at the top of the order, Isaiah Kinner Fafella. For sure. And then, as mentioned, those are the right-handed bats, or the right-handed splits we're really looking to target. We do have one more guy that I really want to talk about as far as his struggles against lefties. We talked about Jose Urena's issues. Well, two guys. One would be Tanner Roark taking on the Los Angeles Angels. We just talked about that game, the lefties, so specifically Shohei Ohtani. Excuse me. Specifically Shohei Ohtani. In the 2 spot, really going to like him, the lefty that can really slug. Jared Walsh as well. Those two guys. If this game does end up playing, which we don't know yet, but Jorge Lopez, last guy I want to talk about, taking on the Boston Red Sox, really struggles against left-handed hitting. A .571 slugging, a 40.2% hard hit rate, and a .392 WOBA against lefties. Not good. And when looking at the Boston Red Sox lineup today, as far as who you would want to target, Alex Verdugo in the 2 spot, my favorite option, but Rafael Devers. Rafael Devers would be my favorite option overall. Alex Verdugo, my favorite option at the top of the order is what I'm getting at. Marwin Gonzalez at the bottom and Franchi Cordero, but specifically Alex Verdugo and Rafael Devers, going to really like them taking on Jorge Lopez today. And that is my overall breakdown of this 10-game slate. Before I let you guys go, I got to give you my home run call of the day. Let's get into it. And my home run call of the day today is going to be Max Kepler taking on Chris Flexen. I mentioned at the top that he is just dreadful overall. Not worried about the Mariners bullpen either. And when looking at Flex's numbers, giving up a lot of hard contact, 30.5% ground ball rate, 47.5% fly ball rate, a 37.3% hard hit rate. Expected to get hit around in this one. And when looking at what he throws, on average about a 94, 95 mile an hour fastball. Looking at how Kepler fares against that pitch, a 447 ISO with a 437 WOBA. And then as far as Flexen's secondary pitches, he'll go to the slider and the changeup. More often the changeup against lefties. And when looking at how Kepler does against that pitch, a 233 ISO with a 279 WOBA. And the slider, he's just as well off against a 302 ISO with a 408 WOBA. Love this spot for Max Kepler, and he is my home run call of the day. So there you have it, guys. Max Kepler, get him in your lineups, and that is all for me in this one. If you enjoy the content, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, I would greatly appreciate that. And then don't forget to check out my KJK DFS MLB package link below in the description. Wish you guys all the best of luck today, and we will see you in the next one.